The Rangers have a lot of interesting new prospects, including the number 2 international prospect in this class. Plus, we have Grant Schiller to talk about 3 Rangers making the top 101 prospects in all of baseball, according to Baseball Prospectus. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow my guest at OG Show. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into this episode, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, here we have the prospect prognosticator, the Baseball Prospectus Rangers expert, Texas League expert, just expert in general, and Rangers fan extraordinaire. Grant, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's another day as world champs, so no complaints.
No complaints here at all, and there will be many more days of the Rangers being world champs. Basically, the entire season until we got until like November, where they will still be the reigning champs because no one else will be crowned, and that's always going to feel good, no matter what's going on with the Rangers and their money problems or the lack of news and just the overall boredom and tedium. This is the worst sports month of the year by far. We're still, a little less than a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. But we're getting less football. It's just meaningless regular season hockey and basketball and no baseball. And honestly, I hate the month of January because it sucks sports wise. Is this
Man,
your
Saban
worst?
Really did a number on you.
He really. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's I'm going through it. But hey, the Rangers are still world champs, no matter what my football teams do to me, whether it's Nick Saban retiring, the Cowboys being predictably Cowboys. The Rangers at least got some news this week. International prospects signing. The time to hope for the future. I swear, basically, it feels like every podcast episode in the month of January I've done has been about prospects because the Rangers refused to do anything that significant at the major league level. But the Rangers have signed several international free agents, including, or I guess, prospect, whatever the correct terminology is. I don't know. My baseball brain is clearly still in off-season mode. But 3 of the prospects that they signed, there were more than 3 of them, but 3 of them were in MLB Pipeline's top 50 prospects in the international signing class, including the number 2 overall prospect in that class, an outfielder named Paulino Santana. There is also a shortstop named Curley Martha, which is an exceptional name, a shortstop out of Curacao, if I remember correctly, number 29 in MLB Pipeline's top 50 international prospects. And lastly, shortstop Yolfran Castillo, number 46 in MLB Pipeline's top 50 prospects. And I feel like we got to start with the Rangers getting the number 2 prospect in this class. Pretty consensus across the board. This is one of the best prospects in this class. Paulino Santana, signed out of the Dominican Republic, has drawn comps to Julio Rodriguez, which feels aggressive of comping anybody to that guy, but as he's projected to be a 5 potential plus tools, a very advanced hitter who could make his way through the system very quickly. What have you heard about Paulino Santana? And are you very excited about him being it seems like the clear gem of this class?
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know that I let myself get excited for anyone in particular when it comes to international free agency. These guys are so young, and you've agreed these deals with them under the table since they've been 12, 13, 14, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. Yes, it happens, but allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just so much to go, so much development to happen, right? I mean, if you think of Baron Laura and Yairo Barris and guys who are very highly rated who just never showed anything. That happens. Some guys just peak early and so they get signed. But what's exciting is that the Rangers have a very strong recent track record of signing interesting prospects out of Latin America. When you go back, even some of the cheaper guys, right? Luis Angel Acuna isn't that far back. At the lower levels right now, you have Glider Figueiredo and Daniel Cueva, Anthony Gutierrez, Sebastian Walcott. Chedry Vargas was a $10,000 signing a couple years back, and he's going to crack our top 10 for the Rangers system.
He cracked my top 10 too.
Like they have, yeah, deservedly so. The dude can hit. They have done a really good job in Latin America the last few years. So getting highly regarded guys and combining that with the Rangers' seemingly strong scouting presence down there, that in combination is exciting, even if Santana doesn't turn out to be the next generational center fielder.
You're saying that it's a little early to put that kind of expectation on a guy who, made his major league debut at 19 and was like a top 5 player in the league basically from the get-go. You think that's
I think what I'm saying is pencil in your 2027 outfield as Langford, Santana, Carter, and top 3 MVP too.
You say 2027?
Yeah, maybe 2026.
Wow, I feel like you're really lowballing that. I mean, why not? By opening day.
If he's Julio Rodriguez, you might look at it.
Having a guy name of Curley, last name Martha, a guy who is from Curacao. I mean, the Rangers have done a good job of scouting these, kind of burgeoning places of, the Bahamas with Sebastian Walcott last year. Obviously, Curacao, they signed a couple of players out of there before Curley Martha, and Martha had a really good showing in the Little League World Series where he hit 3 home runs, which is I feel like they don't do that a whole lot at the little league level. But I feel like early in a very, very highly rated just name in terms of just prospect names, Curley Martha and Yolfran Castillo, like those are both exceptional names. And if they're, half as good of baseball players as they are names, then I'm very excited about the future of these prospects for sure.
Oh yeah, I really hope that Curly Martha turns into something because that name is just wonderful. And to your point, the Bahamas and Curacao are really growing as a baseball nation, right? So the Bahamas, they've had a couple of big prospects come out recently. The Rangers signed Zion Bannister out of there just a few years ago, and then Walcott's from the Bahamas. And Curacao had the generation of shortstops. 10, 15 years ago, where you had Profar, Bogarts, Andrelton Simmons, Didi Gregorius, and playing great ball for Team Netherlands in the World Baseball Classic. So surely that kind of attracted more of that next young generation, and maybe Martha's one of the first to break through.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm going through some of these names that some might turn heads just in talking about great names. There's Daniel Flames. I'm sure it's not pronounced Flames, but I'm calling him Daniel Flames out of Venezuela. There is Joaquin Arias Jr. The Rangers also signed Manny Ramirez out of the Dominican Republic, a different one, I think. Jovensley Hilare, which is very exciting. Jesus Lopez, who they also already have a Jesus Lopez, who is a catching prospect that made my top 30 this year. Claudio Lantigua, Yaisi Celestin, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. The rest of these are also very good, but I'm going to butcher them. I feel like I'm already batting pretty well for how I've done. Jovensley, I already think I said Jovensley, out of Haiti, which not a whole lot of Haitian prospects out there. So that's a name to keep an eye on. I don't know how much these bonuses are for. The Rangers have not, that has not come out yet. They're reporting about how big these bonuses are, but they lost some money in their bonus pool by signing Jacob deGrom, worth it, about $1 million. So they had, I think, about $4.5 million to spend on their international prospects. Seems like they have done a decent job with those prospects, and a few guys who they did not get. Actually, one of them who they signed last year made BP's top 101 prospects overall in baseball. Coming from talk about the three Rangers that made that list, where the Rangers stack up amongst other systems, and just how good their best of the best prospects are. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is done, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's a bunch of different ways to make a bet, like live same game parlays. You can find new bets in the Explore tab if you want to bet on the NBA, if you want to bet on the NHL, if you want to look at the Rangers odds to go back to back as World Series champs. They have got odds on that, as well as individual awards. If you want to look at some of the early MVP awards odds, you can go check that out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. This episode is also brought to you by Ibotta. After the holidays, we could all use a little extra cash in our pockets, especially after all the gift giving. We still need to buy the everyday things we need. Make sure you're getting cash back on all of your everyday purchases with Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that gives you most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $145 a year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. Buy that flight you've been eyeing, or you can go to that game you've been dying to go to, or the fancy dinner you have been craving. Other apps, they use points that don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, just add your offers up in the app, upload your receipt, you get cash, real cash that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying the Ibotta app using code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. And we are back with the OG shill, writer at Baseball Prospectus, general ball knower, prospect knower. And today, as we are recording this will be yesterday as you're listening to this, Baseball Prospectus released their top 101 prospects. 100 was not enough for them. 99, not enough for them. 101. You gotta add that extra one. In this case, the extra one was Chase Davis, an outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. But three guys ahead of Chase Davis on this list were the top three Rangers prospects. Pretty consistently, I think everyone agrees the top three. The order is different, but Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, and Sebastian Walcott all made the top 101. Wyatt Langford coming in at number 2, Evan Carter at number 4, and Walcott just a ways down there at number 75. Still very impressive for a kid who has played one minor league season, already put his name on the map in a big way. But I want to start, obviously, at the top. I think there's going to be a lot of Rangers fans that are questioning, wow, Wyatt Langford, was absolutely incredible. And I think had better production in the higher minors than Jackson Holliday, at least his AAA numbers. But I'm curious, what went into that decision of Jackson Holliday being ranked ahead of Wyatt Langford? Because I'm sure it was a very heated discussion.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's a lot of talk on it. I think pretty early on, it was kind of a group of 4 that was in it for the number 1 spot. Jackson Holliday, Wyatt Langford, Junior Caminero, who debuted with the Rays right before the playoffs this year, and Evan Carter. And Holliday and Langford broke off, and it was just a debate between those two at the end of the day. Langford's a generational hitter. Like, if you came back to me in 10 years and said that he was far and away the best player here, I would not be surprised at all. The thing, what put Holliday over the top is, he's got a higher floor because he's a shortstop. He's a 20-year-old shortstop who's been hitting all the way up the ladder, right? So there's defensive value there that Langford doesn't have. There have been people in the game who project Langford as a DH. I don't personally agree with that. I think he's got enough athleticism where he's going to end up a pretty good left fielder. with enough reps out there. So I don't buy into that. But even if he is a pretty good left fielder, there's less value there, at least on that side of the ball, than a good defensive shortstop. So there's a little bit less pressure on Holiday's bat. If I had to guess who ends up being the better player, it's probably Langford, but Holiday's a bit of a safer option.
Is it more of that Wyatt Langford isn't going to get the chance probably to play center field, or just that you don't think that he can? Because Evan Carter and Leo Taveras exist, and I don't think both of them are going anywhere in particular.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he can tomorrow play a capable big league center field. I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes a much better outfielder in 3 years than he is today, just because he came up as a catcher. He started his college career as a catcher. 2 years of ball, there's plenty of growth to come from there. And even last year in Frisco, the small bit I got to see him, the routes weren't a disaster. He's a good athlete. He's got speed. I think he'll be fine. But I do think that a corner is probably going to be his best home long term.
So you don't think they're going to try him back as a catcher or first base or wherever they were playing him?
I mean, what's the need when you have Andrew Kaiser?
Kisner, I believe.
Kisner.
There's so many Z's and N's there that are completely unnecessary. But yeah, exactly. And also Jonah Heim. He's also there technically.
He's not top 10.
Not a top 10 catcher in the game. Obviously, the ball knowers at MLB Network clearly saw to that. But the other guy who was in that conversation for the top prospect in baseball is Evan Carter. And what is the thought there? I guess there are more obvious questions, I guess, about Carter with hitting lefties, and I feel like we've kind of forgotten about how whenever that back problem first showed itself in his first season, I think that really scared the bejesus out of me. But it hasn't really reared itself back up yet. He has been durable and played through a bit of being nicked up this year. What was kind of the rationale of him behind Langford and also Caminero as well?
Yeah, typically these are top 4 prospects, so it's definitely picking nits. They're all probably going to be great big leaguers, right? But with Carter, he's behind those guys for a couple reasons. It's yet to be seen just how much his power will actualize over a full season. Is he going to turn into the 20 to 25 home run hitter that he has in him? Or is he going to be more in the 10 to 15 range? That's going to have an impact on his value. And then the potential for injury. So you have the back injury from just 3-4 years back at this point. It's not like it's too far in the past where it might not recur. But just he's still so thin. Hit by pitches look like they hurt more on him. I mean, this year, part of the reason his power didn't get up to 20-25 home runs is because he got hit in the wrist by a pitch early on in the season, and he had no power for the next month. And if that is going to be something that he battles, that's going to bring some of his value down. So he's going to be a very good big leaguer. He's going to have 400 OBPs. He's going to have a good hit tool. He's going to be a good defensive player. He's going to run into some now and again. It's just a matter of, is he an under the radar, underappreciated superstar, or is he a very good player?
So you're not thinking that he's going to continue to have an OPS north of 1,050 for his big league career, a 3.46 hitter? You don't think that's sustainable?
Probably not quite.
Hey, it's still pretty good, and it does feel like picking nits, especially. I mean, my rationale of putting him over Langford is just because it's like they were both like getting really excited about like kind of smaller sample sizes in like 2.5 months with Langford and 2 months of Carter. But the difference for me is Carter did it at the big league level, and he's obviously got the defensive floor that we don't really see as much with Langford. I'm still a believer that on a team without Leo Taveras and Evan Carter, he would probably get more of a look in center field and figure it out. But again, it's really a nice place to be coming off a World Series, and you got which of our early 20s, like a 21 and 22-year-old potential future superstar outfielders better. Like it really does feel like just so ridiculous and also it's like, oh, here's the first world championship. Let's go get another because this team is like getting better. Oh, this is the best offense in the American League. Oh, let's make it better by instead of everyday left fielder Travis Jankowski, we make that upgrade that to Evan Carter. And oh no, Mitch Garver's gone. Well, that's a bummer. Here comes Wyatt Langford. Wow, I I guess we might just end up being okay. Like it really does feel like an embarrassment of riches, which is something this team hasn't done in so long. Like I remember the last time we were kind of feeling like this, anywhere close to this was when I first started like really getting into the weeds on prospects and that 2014 Frisco team with Joey Gallo and Nomar Mazara
Lewis
and
Brinson, Jorge
Lewis.
Alfaro.
And we're like,
Under the
wow.
radar, I loved Ryan Rua on that team.
And Nick Williams too. It's like, wow, it just are we gonna have enough room for all these guys? And turns out there was room for all those guys. And I think these guys are thought of as higher ceiling than the other ones. But I mean, Norman Mazar was the most can't miss prospect that I feel like we've seen in the longest time, and that missed badly. And I will always be very confused about that and how many of those ended up being misses or traded away and ended up being misses for somebody else. And the only one that worked out to anywhere near their ceiling was Joey Gallo, who made 2 All-Star teams. We're like, wait, that was the one that we were the most concerned about not even getting to Double-A. And here he goes having several 40 home run seasons. But what a weird way to prospects are so weird and confusing. And hoping that all this hype doesn't look really bad in like 2 or 3 years where Evan Carter like just doesn't end up anywhere close to what we thought. And oh no, actually Wyatt Langford's leg fell off and everything fell off. But hey, the nice thing about being world champs is that, oh, if that happens, we'll be like, oh no, let me just go watch Adolis Garcia's walk-off home run for the 8,000th time and just make all of those worries go away. It's a nice little, backup plan for if everything goes wrong.
That's what I did after the Cowboys game.
That's fair. That is the soothe all for any kind of sports sadness. Coming up, we're talking about some very important signings the Rangers made that made us scratch our heads just a little bit and adding to their 40-man. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. I know we come to sports to escape some of the crazy realities of life, but can we talk for just a minute about preparing for tough situations? Whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by yet another supply shortage, you are covered, my friend. Thanks to our partners at Jase Medical, life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply. Jase Medical has the Jase case. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us, so visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. So the Rangers made a couple of signings this week that kind of confused me. They announced this yesterday as you are listening to this, I'm assuming. They made a deal for right-handed pitcher Daniel Duarte from the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for cash considerations, which I'm surprised they were able to bring cash considerations back after dealing him for Adolis Garcia, but he was happy to re-sign with the Rangers. They also signed right-handed pitcher Jose Urena to a minor league contract with an invitation to Major League Spring training camp. He had 10 starts last year. I believe 6 of those were with Colorado and 4 of them with the White Sox. He was significantly better with the White Sox than he was with Colorado, which is unsurprising because if you're not pitching with Coors as your home field, it is easier to be a better pitcher. But not exactly the most inspiring signings. Urena's been the big leagues for 9 years. His best years, he had a couple of years with an ERA under 4 and over 165 innings back in 2017 and 18 with the Marlins. He's kind of bounced around everywhere the last couple of years. Split time between Milwaukee and Colorado in 2022. Spent time in Detroit in 2021. Just hasn't really been that good much at all since that 2018 season. And I guess it's some depth and and the reliever they got in Duarte from Cincinnati, I mean, he wasn't good enough to stay on Cincinnati's roster. And their bullpen wasn't anything special last year. I'm just kind of curious if you see anything in these moves as opposed to just let's get a look at these guys and see what they've got. And if they got nothing, then oh well.
Yeah, I think Uranus AAA depth, and maybe he's more important than that in this year when we have 3 starting pitchers out until the All-Star break. You hope, ideally, they're out for the All-Star break. So I don't think he's much more than that. Duarte, honestly, I bet that he doesn't survive the 40-man through the offseason. If you're looking for something to be hopeful on, it's probably he's got a good sinker. And that it appears to have been a new pitch last year that became his most used pitch and really was effective. Not so much on whiffs, but on getting ground balls and soft contact. So if you look at his numbers last year, the sinker played really well. The four-seam fastball is his next most used pitch, and that got crushed. So maybe if you adjust the pitch mix and you make him a pure sinker slider guy, maybe there's something more there than he's shown. Thus far, honestly, he hasn't missed many bats, and he's put too many guys on for free. So I don't know that he's much of anything, but if there is a path to success, it's probably just by leaning on the sinker and kind of changing the kind of pitcher that he has been coming up through the systems.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. I kind of want to get back to prospects because there's really not much more with those guys we talked about. And there's unfortunately no more updates with the Valley Sports scenario that hearing that was supposed to be last week, which it's believed that whenever it finally happens, the Rangers are going to get a nice fat check of allegedly around $90 million, according to the New York Post. That's going to happen on Friday. The meeting is going to happen on Friday. We'll see if there's actually a resolution then, or if they push it back yet again, which will make me bash my head against a wall very violently. But back to these top end prospects, it feels like it's been a long time since the Rangers have had anyone near this caliber of prospect. That's like, even in the discussion for, top prospect in all baseball with the, ceiling of multi-time All-Star. When was the last time the Rangers had a prospect? Was it Jerkson Profar the last time they had anyone near the ceiling of either Langford or Carter?
Yeah, I think Profar was the last one who was truly the number one overall discussion, and he ended up being number one overall. But that was a time where there wasn't like a superstar prospect, right? It was always a little unfair to Profar and the expectations of him for him to be number one. Because what he was a quick twitch, really instinctual, good shortstop, good hitter, like an all-around very good player. And he was like impactful one. But not an Alex Rodriguez, not a Julio Rodriguez, not like no doubt number one superstar type prospect, right? It was just the right player at the right time to be number one. So if I'm taking Profar as a prospect versus Langford as a prospect, I'm probably taking Langford. I'm probably putting Profar closer to kind of the Carter level. We're just really, really good baseball player, right? I think the most recent prospect who would be in the discussion to be anywhere near these two is probably Mazzara, who you brought up earlier. And he just, the plate discipline abandoned him, and he never was a good athlete, never was a good right fielder. So it was all in the bat, and
he had all the raw power in the world that he just never, ever tapped into. It kind of feels a little like Nathaniel Lowe, except I don't know. Actually, Lowe apparently gets apparently when he's taking BP, he's, crushing ball. Like he's putting on a laser show.
Yeah.
I would love to see that more often in games. Like we kind of saw that for that second half stretch in 2022. It was awesome to watch, but we didn't quite see that this year, and I'm hoping we do. If he has a big season this year, I would not be surprised at all. But yeah, I mean, having those guys with that ceiling of like they're talking about like, oh yeah, his floor is like 3-4 win player. Like that's just kind of nuts to put that on a guy, and we'll see what they live up to it, and we'll see what they look like in the big leagues when Langford actually reached the big leagues. I, at this point, would be more surprised if he doesn't break camp with the Rangers on, the big league club than if he does. But I mean, even if he doesn't, like he's still 22 years old. He spent like all of 5 minutes in the minors, and and almost assuredly, barring like injury, I'm pretty darn sure he's gonna be up at some point this year, and maybe stealing Rookie of the Year votes from his buddy Evan Carter, because according to MLB executives, Evan Carter is a favorite to win AL Rookie of the Year, and number 4 is Wyatt Langford, which is just really nice to be in that position of the future looking so bright. But let's look at the past, our random Rangers. I hear you have a good one. If you're new to this, whenever I have Grant on, we will pick a random Ranger and read off their stats. The more random, the better. And we've done this for many, many moons. Grant, do you have your random Ranger, or would you like me to start describing mine?
I do have mine. Before we get to that, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that the Rangers signed Neftali Feliz's nephew.
Oh, they did?
Yes, Ulife Caraballo out of the Dominican Republic is, I believe, the nephew, if I remember the relation correctly, of Neftali Feliz.
Okay, well, we don't have Neftali Feliz Jr. because once that happens, then I'm going to be officially. I mean, Joaquin Arias Jr. makes me feel pretty darn old, but yeah, we're just going with nephew now, so we're not all that old just yet. But Grant, who is your random Ranger?
Yeah. All right, so I'm going with a funky lefty. Comes at you from sidearm angle. The Rangers got him in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft from Detroit in 2017, and he worked his way up, had a great 2018 in Double-A, and then debuted in 2019. He threw all of 6.2 innings, walked 4, struck out 5, 5.40 ERA. He's only pitched in the majors one more game since then with the Chicago Cubs in 2022, where he threw 2 innings and allowed 3 runs. It appears he was out of baseball last year. But fun little lefty, fun name. Do you know who this random Ranger is?
I do. Locke St. John from Pell City, Alabama. I had a fraternity brother from Pell City. He was also, this guy, Locke St. John, went to University of South Alabama, USA, the Jaguars, as opposed to the Eagles, which was so easy for USA, but they missed that one. Mine was a guy who won a World Series against the Rangers in 2011, but made his Rangers debut, his final season in the big leagues, in 2016. Pitched a whopping 2 games, both starts for the Rangers, had an ERA of 12.5, 9 1/3 innings with the Rangers, but won the world. Kyle Loesch, a very random, very Ranger, 16 years in the big leagues, 2 starts with the Rangers, and Dunsky. That was it for Mr. Kyle Loesch, your random Ranger of the day. Kyle Loesch and Locke St. John. That Locke St. John is a good one. That is a very random Ranger and a very fun name of like, God, I don't know why that guy stuck in my head, but he did. You have a name like that. Locke St. John, the lefty alleged lockdown reliever with a 7.27 career ERA in the big leagues. But that is going to do it for today's show. Grant, thank you so much for joining me and for talking about how bright the future of the Rangers outfield prospect. We barely even mentioned Sebastian Walcott. Just very good, very fun. Good for him making it up to 75. We'll see where he starts next year. I'm really intrigued about that. Many questions about the Rangers going into the season. Less than a month left until pitchers and catchers report, and maybe we can have some Rangers news break in the next couple weeks and some other good, fun things to talk about. But until then, Grant, thank you so much for joining me. Y'all, thank you so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.